Hello, 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 everyone. Hello, and welcome to the 6th Energy Professionals Online Roundtable, brought to you by the World Energy Day. We are very, very excited to have you joining us today, and we do really appreciate that you could find time in your busy schedules to plug into this value-adding session on energy inclusion. And because it's all about inclusion, kindly allow me to introduce Winnie Adoyo. Winnie is our sign language interpreter today. Winnie, welcome, and please say hi to these lovely people. Sorry, I dropped off. We had Winnie. Ruth, did we have Winnie? Oh, okay. Okay, I think we'll just proceed as we give her time to come to join us. She will be our sign language interpreter. I think she'll be joining us in a bit. So the 6th Energy Professionals Online Roundtable and all the previous roundtables we've had this year are among a series of activities that we do in the run-up to the World Energy Day conference in October. And please allow me to do a brief intro of the World Energy Day. The World Energy Day is celebrated annually on the 22nd of October. And in Kenya, these celebrations have been championed by the World Energy Day Foundation in collaboration with various partners since the year 2016. This year in 2021, it's bigger, it's better, and even better still, it's going global. We are going to Kampala, Uganda, and the conference theme this year, it's energy sustainability in Africa, unlocking the food sustainability, climate change, and water equation. So during the World Energy Day celebrations, there are a few mini events that go into the World Energy Day conference. One of them is the Youth Innovation Challenge. This year we've gotten, the challenge has attracted projects from all around Africa. And during the World Energy Day conference in Kampala, we will get a chance to see all these amazing innovations from the youth and also announce the winners. We also have the Energy Professional Awards that seek to introduce the efforts of, to recognize the efforts of energy professionals in Africa who are doing excellent and wonderful things in the space. So we will also award them during the conference. Sorry, I'm just going on, and I haven't introduced myself. So my name is Karen Turanera, and I am a member of the World Energy Day Secretariat. Happy to have all of you here and to be joining the 6th Energy Professionals Online Roundtable. So before we unpack our topic for today, I wish to introduce our, and before we also introduce our moderator to take over, we shall run through a few housekeeping rules so that we can just maintain order for the rest of the session. The first one is that this session is being recorded, and our team will share a link to our WhatsApp webcast broadcast where you can access the recording and other useful resources like recordings from the previous webinars and reports. We also ask you to mute your microphone unless you're called upon. This is to maintain order in silence during the webinar. Also feel free to insert your names to your profile or rename yourselves if you haven't, so that we're able to properly address and acknowledge you when you're especially when you're called upon by the moderator. Also, in case you have questions during the webinar, also, although we have the Q&A session that is dedicated to taking your questions and answering them, also feel free to use the raise hand feature and also the chat section in case you have anything that you'd like to share with us or to any question that you'd like to ask. Other thing is that our previous roundtable reports, recordings, they are available on YouTube and on our website. Other members of the World Secretariat are in this call, and they'll share the links to our YouTube channel, to our website, and to the WhatsApp broadcast so that you can join in and access all these things. I also wish to acknowledge our partners for the World Energy Day 2021. Because we're going to Uganda, we partnered with UNREA. UNREA is the Uganda National Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Alliance, an umbrella organization that constitutes of 5 other member associations, championing renewable energy and energy efficiency initiatives in Uganda. Also, we have Camco Clean Energy UK, which is a fund manager specializing in clean energy and climate finance in emerging markets like ours. This company has extensive experience in financing and building clean energy and electrification projects in developing and established markets in Africa, in China, in Southeast Asia, in USA, and in the Caribbean. We also have Area Finergy. Area Finergy are industry leaders in supplying clean energy technologies, storage and power, quality system, and financing solutions supported by a seamless end-to-end service. We've had them in the call previously, and we have them here today as well. We also have KEREA. KEREA is the Kenya Renewable Energy Association. It is an independent non-profit association dedicated to facilitating the growth and development of renewable energy businesses in Kenya. So these are our partners for the World Energy Day 2021 for these webinars that we are bringing to you, and we have them on call today. So having heard about the World Energy Day history, having heard about the partners that are bringing these amazing webinars to you, I'd like to finally introduce our moderator for the day. His name is Mr. David Njuki. Mr. David Maina Njuki is the CEO, Clean Cooking Association of Kenya. He is a mechanical engineer by profession, and he has vast experience in project management, renewable energy technologies, that is solar, biogas. He also has quite some experience in green growth economy, business, and technical advisory to SMEs. David is a lover of writing. He has written several articles, especially for The Nation, and numerous blogs. He's very passionate about all matters energy efficiency, and is our very passionate moderator for this session as well. David, please take it away.
Good morning, everybody. As introduced, I'm David Njuki, and I'll be your moderator for the webinar today. And I'm glad to be here, and really appreciate the opportunity to moderate this session. So I hope you can hear me clearly.
Yes, we can hear you, David.
Okay, fantastic. We have quite a lengthy program ahead of us, and we will try to keep on the times that we've been given, allocated. Thank you for introducing and the World Energy Day, and I think this is a very good initiative. I'll just give a brief about the session before we get into the speakers and then welcome them. So as Karen has mentioned, this is the 6th virtual energy professional roundtable among many that have happened as a precursor to the World Energy Day that will be in October in a few days. That is 20th to 22nd. We've heard that will be in Kampala. And we hope, Karen, you are taking us to Kampala. The discussion today serves as a platform to discuss energy inclusion, which is also a passionate topic for me as well, addressing the emerging considerations for inclusion and diversity in the sustainability agenda. As you know, there's need for harmonization of thoughts, strategies, and practical action to achieve inclusion in the energy sector. So that is our topic today, energy inclusion, emerging considerations for inclusion and diversity in sustainability agenda. And we have speakers who will be speaking to various aspects that touch on inclusion. As we know, inclusion is a global issue that has been heightened by COVID-19, and there's need for creating that awareness of the need to have an inclusive energy sector, and actually all the sectors need to be inclusive to take care of the needs of everybody, whether they're women, children, men, people living with disabilities, among others. And for SDG 7 on energy and then 13 on climate action, this is an imperative theme that we need to take up and make sure that inclusivity is top of our agenda. And this is part of raising that voice and making sure that those who are marginalized, those who are usually not part of these discussions and all that are now part of it. So that is the theme for the webinar today, and we look forward to hearing more from the speakers. Our first speaker is Andrew Amadi. Andrew Amadi is the current CEO of the Kenya Renewable Energy Association, which is an association that represents stakeholders in the renewable energy sector. He's a chemical engineer by training and has worked in the sector for more than 24 years, where he has engaged with all kinds of renewable energy technologies. He has worked across the energy sector, from the petroleum to the renewables, and has quite a bit of experience on issues to climate change. And he is personally committed to aligning to achieving resilience and prosperity in the face of climate change. He has achieved a lot, especially in this space on environment, renewable energy efficiency sector since 2007, including carrying out energy audits. He's an expert in energy efficiency, energy service companies, and he has taken part in the development and implementation of energy efficiency projects in the region. He was instrumental in the setting up of the Association of Energy Professionals East Africa and has actively participated in the development of sustainable energy policy for public and private sector organizations. So it is my honor to introduce to you Andrew Amadi, the CEO of the Kenya Renewable Energy Association, who will be giving us our opening remarks and welcome note. Karibu sana, Bwana Andrew. Feel free to put on your video.
Thank you very much, David. It is indeed an honor, privilege to be here today for this really important discussion. and to set the ball rolling in terms of how we can be able to have better inclusion when we speak about energy. For me, I look at energy beyond the SDG number 7. It is a good SDG. It sets sectoral targets. However, if we look at the totality of energy, if we look at the complexity of the problems of access, then we start to realize that it goes beyond just energy, I say, like to the meter. We have to go beyond the meter. We have to ask the questions of what is this energy being used for, and how can this energy be able to also assist with the other SDGs. And our, yes. Sorry, okay. So in our case in Kenya, and I believe it is also similar in Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, is that we still have a large percentage of the population that does not have access to electricity. That is usually the starting point of conversations around access to energy. And there's also the important area of access to clean cooking, where in Kenya we have about 80% of the biomass that is consumed being used for domestic cooking, and it forms about 68% of the total primary energy. So for us to get to sustainability, we have to look at access to clean cooking across the board. The experience has been that access is a direct function and correlation to wealth and income. The rich do not have a problem of access to energy. The lower the disposable income, the more difficult the challenge becomes. And we are still grappling with what we consider the bottom of the pyramid. And within the bottom of the pyramid is where we have the most marginalized groups in our society. We have the youth that is disenfranchised, we have women disproportionately represented, we have people with disabilities, we have people living in remote areas that are generally left out by what would be the normal market systems. So we have to find ways to be able to access and to be able to include these people. So one of the radical proposals or suggestions that I personally propose is to ask the difficult questions. How can we move the 9 million or 9 to 15 million people estimated? We have about 45 million in East Africa that do not have access to these clean energy or to modern energy services. How do we move the 600 million people around Africa? How do we move the 1.2 billion people globally, not just from not just to get access to these services, but more pertinently, how do we move them from being in the state of poverty that makes it difficult to get access into the productive economy and into the middle class? And that is not too difficult. That is not insurmountable. That is a challenge that we have taken on, even as Kerea. We are now heavily focusing on how to be able to make the people who are most disenfranchised to be the ones to access the tools that will make them economically productive and participatory. And in so doing, we will not only be addressing SDG number 7, we will also be addressing SDG number 6, we'll be addressing SDG number 1 on poverty, we will be addressing SDG on inclusivity, we will be addressing all of these. And the common denominator, when you look at all of these, exclusion is underwritten by energy. So we have to go beyond just providing electricity and saying that we have connected people, but also providing the tools that they can be able to use that electricity, use that energy, apply it to the resources that are available in their vicinity, and translate that into economic growth. So that for me is really what this discussion should be framed like. And it is a great honor to be here today, and look forward to the participation and to deliberation. And also, as we go towards the month of World Energy Day, let us have this as the theme of how we are going to engage on the topic of inclusion. So with those remarks, thank you very much. And back to you, David.
Thank you very much, Andrew, for helping us understand the issue of inclusion. I agree with you. It's not all about energy. Someone this week actually told me, energy for who? Well, that's the question we need to be asking. And when you ask that question, that's when you try and bring in everybody. And I agree that it actually touches on many other SDGs and aspects of our life. Thank you so much, and we are glad to partner with you and also to have you today as our guest speaker. Our next speaker is Ms. Claire Kaga. Ms. Claire Kaga, she is the Managing Director of Renewable Energy Business Incubator Limited. The entity nurtures renewable energy startups, provide business development services to MSMEs, support skills development, and pilot technologies. Their business incubation program promotes entrepreneurship for both female and male enterprises. Much as the sector is male-dominated, women enterprises are usually prioritized to join the sector. And they have all kinds of programs on skills development, among other programs. She is a certified inclusive business advisor with 10 years experience in providing business advisory support to green enterprises. She holds a master's degree in public administration and management with several trainings in business management. And she has provided business mentorship services to female entrepreneurs under the Tony and Lumelu Entrepreneurship Program. And we are very honored to have you today, Claire. Kindly feel very much welcome, and you can begin your presentation. Claire, karibu sana.
Thank you very much, David. Good morning, everyone. For those who might be in different time zones, good afternoon. I don't have all the details about the participants. Yeah, my name is Claire Kaga, like David introduced me. And I'm from Uganda. I'm glad to be part of this. And I'm excited being female and also speaking about our role and the challenges we go through in the sector. Then I'll also be able to share some actions that should be taken for us to be able to accelerate the change. As women, let me first share my screen. David, kindly confirm that my screen is visible.
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you very much.
You can proceed. As
women, we play a key role in the sector, though it is, I will say, recognized currently at a very minimal level. But given that we are key users of energy, both for lighting and heating, then our role needs to come out. And I like the topic of the day when we talk about inclusion, because if you are a key user of a product or service, then you have to be part of the decisions to determine what is required for the specifications of a particular product or a particular service. Once you're left out, then the decisions are going to be made out of your favor, not in your favor. So I come in to share our role and what we currently go through as women, and why we are not actually big players in the decision making, yet we are key users of the energy. So I'm going to be able to link those. I'll be able also to share some gains and wins that we have as women in the sector. And then at the end of the day, I'll be able to take in some questions based on my presentation. I didn't dwell a lot on the role, but I gave more time to the challenges that we are currently existing, then the gains, and also some strategies moving forward. Okay, reasons why some of the reasons why we are not really much involved in the high-level energy discussions is, first of all, there are low numbers of women in the senior decision-making roles. Majority of the women who are in the sector have taken on administrative roles, which roles are normally in the background. Hence, if you are in the background, much as you're playing a big role in the background, there's no way you're going to be recognized at the forefront unless you're actually participating in the decision-making process. So we have so few role models that are encouraging the students and also the professional women to be able to engage in the high-level discussions about energy. Since we have fewer girls joining the STEM courses, by STEM I mean science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, then we are going to find that the numbers of women in the sector may increase, but it's not about the numbers, it's about what big role are you able to play? Because for us to be able to get to the fora and also to be able to make those big changes that we anticipate, taking decisions on how to improve clean cooking, taking decisions on how to increase clean lighting for our families, then we have to be engaged in these key discussions. Another challenge that I look at is the experience we go through, based on the social norms and expectations. As women and as mothers, we have home responsibilities and childcare responsibilities, which leave us less time and mobility many times to engage in such discussions. I'm happy we are having this online session since there is less mobility for us to gather in this. For example, I'm imagining if we had this discussion in Nairobi, then if Claire is to come to Nairobi for this discussion, a lot of decisions have to be taken, starting from the family level. I need to consult with my husband. Then we have to find out how many days do I have to spend in Nairobi to be able to engage in this discussion? Where will I leave the children? Okay, who is going to take care of them while I am away? But since we're having this online, then it's easier for me to engage. Otherwise, if it was physical, probably I would or would not be able to participate in the discussion. Then we also have gender bias in recruitment and promotion processes. And I look at this as a two-way. where the gender roles may discourage us women to take up top positions. I have an experience that happened in, I think around 2014. An organization was recruiting a manager, and the assistant manager was a woman. So they had to take a decision on the person coming in to manage this organization. When the interviews were conducted, the best candidate happened to be a female. And one of the people on the interview committee asked, if we have a woman manager and we have a woman assistant manager, if both conceive and they have to go for maternity leave, who is going to manage the organization? So you'll find that even our gender gets into the decision-making on who should be at the top of the organization, given the other roles that we have to play. But I'm happy that at the end of it all, the interviewers decided that the woman takes up the role since she was the best, but still questions remained on what happens in case our other roles come in. Yeah. Then the other way is at times that industry fails to attract the good talent from the women. Much as we want to be up there and be able to participate in the decision-making processes at high level, at times some of us are not that qualified. Okay. Then I also looked at women entrepreneurship having enormous challenges. For us to be able to engage in the clean cooking solution provision, in the clean lighting provision, we have to come out as key players. Now, when we are to come out in the entrepreneurship, some of these challenges deter us. One, limited financing opportunities. We all know that when we go to these financial institutions, they ask for collateral. How many women have this collateral to be able to access this financing? Limited entrepreneurship skills is another challenge for the women entrepreneurs. Then we have limited information on entrepreneurship. Yeah, few role models, because the more women you see succeeding in entrepreneurship and energy, it's easier for the young girls to get on board and be able to identify with these women. They will also be taking on entrepreneurship roles. But in case they do not see very many women as role models, then it's difficult for them. They'll again end up in looking for the softer administrative roles. Of course, family restrictions are also part of the challenges that women entrepreneurs face. Yeah, there are a number of other challenges, but I zeroed down on those where I find that most of the other challenges actually fall under these challenges. Moving on to the gains and wins to be celebrated. The fact is a lot is going on, not only in Uganda, Kenya, East Africa as a whole, but at a global level. Many programs are coming up to educate and skill women. Programs focusing on practical skills, like for the technical and vocational education, and for girls to be able to increase in numbers in the STEM courses, and also the mentorship and internship opportunities. And all these programs are aimed at ensuring that there is women inclusion in the energy sector. I shared some examples here. One is the Renewable Energy Business Incubator that I work with. We run a scholarship program for girls, and of course, we're looking at getting more girls in, though we found that again, more boys came in, but our focus is getting more girls in the technical courses. So when we provide these sponsorships for students pursuing national diplomas in electrical, mechanical, and water engineering, we want to see more girls getting the practical skills to be able to actually impact and take on these high-level decisions in the organization that they are able to when they finish school. So after their courses, we attach them to energy companies for industrial training to be able to be exposed to the world of work. Such that when we talk about qualifications, when we talk about skills, when we talk about who has to take up this position, the women have been educated and skilled to be able to fit in. I also got another example from a Kenyan lady, that's Oguto Okudo, who is running the Women in Energy and Extractives Africa. She's also doing something similar to what we are doing, promoting girls in the STEM sector. I know there are very many other examples in both Africa and also the other continents which are promoting girls' education and skills development to be able to fit in the high-level discussions in the sector. Another gain that I looked at, I used an example of Uganda. Currently, we have a number of women in the key energy organizations, both at government and private level. And I'm sharing an example here. Our current energy minister is female. The permanent secretary of the Ministry of Energy is female. The CEO of the Electricity Regulatory Authority is female. The acting ED of REA is female. And also the partner of World Energy Day in Uganda, UNREA, has a female CEO. Now, much as we have some of these women in these positions, it doesn't mean that many women are in there in the top positions. These are a few, but we need to get more women in heading and leading these energy institutions. But we have to celebrate this win, at least. Yeah, another gain is for women being involved in energy entrepreneurship. Since we understand the needs of the households, then when we get involved in production of energy, we are able to, based on those needs, to design the energy solutions. And once the two meet, then it's easier for us to move the sector to the next level. Another gain is some energy financing is coming in for women-led and women-managed enterprises. This is an example of one of the groups that we support as a REBI that looks at both being female and being youth. So we provide some financing for these young people to be able to participate in the energy sector. Given those gains, I'll also be able to share some actions that I feel should be focused on for us to accelerate the change, to be able to increase the energy access, both for cleaning and, both for lighting and heating, and also getting still the women at the front in the sector. One of the areas I looked at was working with the women in the top positions in the sector to advocate for increased women inclusion in the sector. Being a woman, we understand ourselves, we understand our capabilities and the roles we can play. So if women at the top come in to advocate strongly for more women to get where they are, then I see change will be easily accelerated for us to improve the sector. Another action I looked at was supporting girls to take on STEM courses, such that when there are opportunities for them to engage in such discussions, they have the skills, the qualifications, the confidence, and the ability to fit in. Then we need to look at increasing the mentorship programs with female role models at the forefront. Since they are role models, when they speak to us, there's a way we understand more than someone coming from somewhere when they don't know exactly what you're talking about to motivate us. Another action I looked at was recruitment of women in top management positions to engage in decision-making. The more we have more women in the decision-making positions, the more we are going to carry this energy development agenda ahead. Also having regular discussions on women inclusion in the sector, such as the one we are holding today. And I'm happy in the participation, I'm seeing quite a number of women. So if we have more of these coming more often, it helps us to get more information about the initiatives that are happening across the world, about what women are being engaged in. Then also the young ones will be able to pick up very fast. And then the last action I looked at was promotion of women entrepreneurship by solving the current barriers that I shared earlier, the limited finance access, the limited skills, limited information. Yeah, once these barriers are solved, then it will be easy for us to accelerate the change. And as I close my presentation, I have a quote from the former Prime Minister of Britain, who mentioned that if you want something said, ask a man. If you want something done, ask a woman. So as women, we are doers. Once we're given the opportunity to do, then we shall do. This person in the photo happens to be a Kenyan involved in the energy sector. And I end by calling upon fellow women and also the men to be able to keep advocating for us to get into the high decision-making positions and processes, because we are able to. And once we are left behind, much as everyone else wants the energy access to increase, both at household and also industrial level, then there will be a big gap. Once this gap is solved, then we are good to go. Thank you very much. Questions are welcome. Over to you, David.
Thank you, Claire, for that elaborate presentation. You've really tried to highlight the role of women and why they need to be heard, and what I think my takeaway from your presentation is that women need to take up the space, not wait for the opportunities to come, but to actually take up this space. I've been trying to work actually on my side to actually get women to be entrepreneurs and to be service providers, especially in the clean cooking space, because that's, I think, is the only way that we'll be able to address the gap that we have in terms of energy access. Thank you so much. We'll have questions at the end of the speakers, but I encourage everybody, anyone who has a question, to put it on the chat. We'll also be, the speakers will also be answering the questions there, as well as when we are done, we have a Q&A session at the end of this speakers session. So thank you so much, Claire, for sharing. And we really appreciate what you've been able to achieve and what you're doing, especially for women in this space. And before we get the next, we introduce the next speaker, I will allow Ruth to come in at this point. She has an activity for us. Ruth? So this is a poll basically asking what you think is the biggest barrier to bridging the inclusion gap in energy space, in the energy space. And let's participate and feel what we think is the main reason, and maybe we'll have time, if we have time, we'll be able to consider some of the issues raised, and also maybe the speakers will be able to respond to them. let's participate in a poll. Ruth, let me know when you're done or when we have concluded on this poll so that I can proceed. Yeah, the poll results indicate that the biggest barrier to bridging the inclusion gap in the energy space is lack of stakeholder support from both private and government. That is 47% lack of awareness, policies at 13%, and others. So this is quite interesting, and speakers continue to present to us. Maybe these are things that you may want to address for that activity. Our next speaker is Mr. Brian Mwenda. Brian is the founder and CEO of HopeTech Plus, and he has developed the Sixth Sense, which is a wearable assistance device that replaces canes and human guides for visually impaired people. This gives them the freedom to move independently and the confidence to participate more in the society, socially and economically. Brian is a holder of a Royal for Engineering Innovation. He's a 2019 winner of the Diversity and Inclusion Award for Best Innovative and Inclusive Deployment of Technology. He's also an active advocate for the inclusion and equality. He has been innovating in the field of assistive technology for over 5 years, and with his company, HopeTech Plus Limited, he has launched several assistive devices for visually impaired people in Kenya and East Africa, like the Fourth Eye device, which is a device that can convert ordinary white canes into smart canes and other learning aids for visually impaired people. He's seeking to develop the Sixth Sense into a global product. I think that is quite interesting, and I think what Brian has been able to do is quite impressive. Brian, feel very much welcome and share with us what you have for today.
Thanks, Sana David. I'm very happy to be here in this conversation. It's quite different from what I usually participate in, but I'm glad to share about the work that we do. I think I'll do a very small presentation of what we do, and then at the end, I'll mention the relevance to this particular topic. But I'm more looking forward to the Q&A session, more importantly, to hear from you, especially about the inclusion of persons with disabilities in the energy space. So if I can just share my screen. Yeah. So my name is Brian Mwenda from HopeTech Plus, and we do most of our innovations to help visually impaired people to bridge certain challenges that they may have. And our products are geared to helping them to overcome challenges in mobility so that they can participate in things like employment. We're looking at helping visually impaired people go back to school, so that's education. We're also helping visually impaired people to start their own businesses and also to participate in the society. So you find that most visually impaired people get access to a white cane, which is usually not very convenient to walking independently. So they usually need another human guide to help them to walk. And most of them find that this is very expensive when, especially if you're traveling, you have to pay twice. If you're performing any task, you always need another person there. So it's not very sustainable. So our company went into developing technology to help visually impaired people to move without assistance of other people. And this is one of our products. It's called the Fourth Eye device. It works like a torch, maybe like a flashlight. So whenever you point the device, if there's an obstacle, it will detect it digitally and give vibration feedback to the user. So the person will just walk around with the device and the white cane like they would a torch. So this is one of the products that we launched a few years ago. And so far we have over 3,000 users across different countries. Most of them are here in Kenya. And I think one of our biggest wins is that we have users across all counties, even in the remote areas. So the main challenge that we're facing with the white cane right now is that it has a very limited height detection. So it will not detect anything that is above the knee level. And also you have to get to an obstacle to tap it with the white cane to know that it's there. So we've developed another device called the Sixth Sense, which is a wearable device. So someone will just wear it, and it will detect obstacles digitally and give them vibration feedback. So for this particular product, the person does not really need to use the white cane, because we also realized some visually impaired people feel like using the white cane is telling the whole world that you're visually impaired and you may need assistance, and some of them just want to make their journeys in private. Yeah, so the product can detect all obstacles from the ground level all the way up to something that may hit your head. And I think for sighted people, these are not things that we normally consider every day, but for a visually impaired person, this is something that's very important. So when an obstacle comes into the field of view, so for example, if there's an obstacle on the left, there are vibration motors on that particular side that will warn this user there's an obstacle on the left, and maybe they need to walk slightly towards the right. So it's quite intuitive to use. So we're looking at the Sixth Sense being a replacement for the white canes, and also a competitor to other advanced products out there. We're competing in terms of the functionality that we give visually impaired people, and also in terms of the cost. And we are currently working in over 10 countries, and we have partners from across the world. And especially in Kenya, we're working with the National Council of Persons with Disabilities, the Kenya Institute for the Blind, and a few other organizations that help us to get these products to visually impaired people. So there's a lot of potential to scale this technology in future. And something that I will talk about briefly is the role of energy in innovations like this. So we're looking at impacting over 100 million lives in 10 years across the world, because once you empower someone who's visually impaired, they can take care of their family, and they can also live fulfilling lives. So that's you can find more information from our website and our social media pages. And that's my presentation. But just to talk about now how we encountered some challenges, especially in this energy space, especially when we're doing the product development. So one of our products, all of our products use they're rechargeable. So you charge the device like you will charge your smartphone. And when we're deploying these products in the remote areas, in the rural areas, it's very difficult for places without energy, without electricity connection, or people cannot access energy easily. So what we do for that is that we increase the battery capacity, and this in turn now increases the cost for the product. So we believe if there is like equitable access for energy, especially for persons with disabilities, then we'd be able to work on a smaller battery capacity and lower cost for the product. If we have a low cost for the product, then it's more affordable to more people because persons with disabilities are already out of employment. They already face so many challenges. So when the product is very costly, then it's not accessible to them. So you find like a challenge like in the energy space is trickling down to lack of access to very needed assistive devices for people with disabilities. And I think solutions like solar or other renewable energy solutions, I can see there are a lot of stakeholders here. I think that will be the future in this particular space. So I think I will encourage more investment in those solutions from people here. And also maybe something else is to increase the conversations around disability inclusion in the energy space. I think, like I mentioned, this is a very unique opportunity for me to speak in this particular setting. So I think this is something which is very positive. Sometimes all we need is just to hear the conversation about persons with disabilities being involved in every single space. So if it's accelerator programs, you can mention the involvement of persons with disabilities. I think there's a lot of also research being done about like accessibility of energy. So if we can have some statistics about how inclusive it is for persons with disabilities, I think even subconsciously for the general public, they usually recognize that and understand maybe if I'm doing my things also, I'll think about people with disabilities. But if we exclude them from all conversations, then it will become like an afterthought. But I'm glad that we're having this conversation where we can think about inclusion before we even do our research, before we even develop our products. So I'm looking forward to hearing more ideas about inclusion of persons with disabilities, especially during the Q&A. Thanks a lot, David.
Thank you so much, Brian. I think this is very interesting, and congratulations. I think you've delivered a very innovative product. Before we get to the Q&A, just for something for you to think, in terms of questions, then we can address them during the Q&As. Maybe we'd like to hear the regulatory challenges that you have faced. Issues to do with patenting of your technology. Has it been easy? The cost of development, how have you managed to do that? And then how you're trying to incorporate, I think you've touched a bit on it in terms of renewables, maybe to make your devices or the batteries rechargeable by solar. I think that would be a very easy way of addressing the issue of the charging issue. So those are a few questions, and we hope that you can address them during the Q&A, which will be in a short while, but very exciting to hear how the interlinkages of all these, and because this empowers people. When it empowers people across the board, we have visually impaired people who are in the energy sector and can benefit from these. Energy can solve some of the problems that, or the issues that maybe the challenges that you're having, like the charging and all that. So those interlinkages are very important, and then we really appreciate it. It's quite impressive. I'm very impressed by what you're doing. Karen, you have an activity for us before we proceed?
Yes. Very interesting discussions indeed. And just to tease our brains a bit, we have an activity. It's a riddle me. So I'd like us to put our answers in the chat section. So this is the riddle. Listen carefully. What kind of band never plays music? What kind of band never plays music? Please put your answers in the chat section. Blue band, rubber band, okay, hair band, rubber band, hair band, bandwidth. Yeah, keep the comments coming. Interesting answers. Blue band, energy band, oh, nice. Okay, energy band. Okay, great. So it's interesting to see how people are thinking. I think a few people got it right. Maybe the secretariat can note or maybe get the first person who answered the correct answer. Maybe we'll have some reward for them. The right answer is rubber band. That's the kind of band that never plays music. But I feel like all the other answers are pretty close. So congratulations, everyone. I think we've teased our minds. Now we can go back. Thank you so much, David.
Okay, thank you, Karen, for that. Quite confusing, but I think quite a number of us got it. Our next speaker is Richard Ojunga. Richard is an energy audit technician in the Youth in Energy Empowerment Program. This is a program that has been going on for the last 8 months, coming into completion next month on the 15th of October. It is a partnership between Innovators and WE4F. I'm not so sure who that is, to empower young people. Richard will tell us, young people in the energy space with energy audit technical training, essential skills training, and internships program. Basically, Richard will be taking us through his experience, and this is more of a youth discussion. We know that Africa's population constitutes over 40% youth, and there is need to engage these people. How can we also bring them into the energy sustainability agenda? There are barriers that the youth face to contributing to this space. And having been on the ground, I know Richard will be able to share with us what his experience is and maybe lessons that he has been able to learn. Richard, feel very much welcome. We're glad to have you. You have 10 minutes, so kindly feel very much welcome and then proceed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, David, for that introduction. It's been great to hear from the other speakers about just how women can be included and also with disabilities and the innovations that are out there. And I'd like now to focus on energy inclusion with a particular focus on the youth. So I'll get right into it. As David had mentioned, youth constitute over 40% of Africa's population. Now, if you think about this, if 40% of the device you're using right now, whether it's a smartphone or a laptop, was not working or probably had poor connection between the components, then I think it would be quite hard for you to actually join this conversation, which is why I believe that if Africa's population consists of 40% youth, then it would be important to include them in the energy sustainability agenda. So this is what we'll be discussing for today. Firstly, ways in which youth can contribute to the energy sustainability agenda. Then secondly, barriers hindering youth from fully contributing to the energy sustainability agenda and some proposed solutions. And lastly, just some pieces of advice to decision makers and youth based on my experience on the ground. So before we start, there's a quote here by Audrey Hepburn. She was an actress in the 20th century. She said, "To plant a garden is to believe in tomorrow." Now, I think this is something we can think about when we move on with the conversation. So moving on to the first topic, which is contribution of youth in the energy sustainability agenda. And I'd like us to start by just defining what sustainability is. We probably had this term before. It's basically meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. And in this aspect, future generations is actually the youth. And what energy sustainability therefore is meeting the energy needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to do so. And this can be done in a number of ways. For instance, using renewable sources of energy. Renewable sources of energy are sources of energy that cannot be depleted, for instance, the sun or wind. And we are seeing quite a lot of this happening these days, where even devices such as street lights or equipment come powered with solar power. I personally enjoy listening to music. So I have this small speaker which you just charge it, and thankfully the sun is faithful and it comes out every day, and I'm able to listen to music without having to worry about plugging it into the socket to charge it, and in that way manage to save energy in that aspect. And hopefully the sun will continue shining, given that climate change is an actual issue. So we need to also address that when speaking about sustainability. Next, we have improved energy conservation, which can be as simple as even just switching off lights when they are not in use. And lastly, improved energy efficiency. With the current technologies that are existing, we have improved equipment and devices and even lighting. For instance, LED has now taken the center stage in lighting in being one of the most efficient ways of lighting. So how can the youth actually contribute to this energy sustainability agenda? So I believe that there is power in numbers. Given that the youth are 40%, contribute over 40% of Africa's population, we can actually take advantage of this number, given that they're also energetic and highly teachable. They can learn skills and actually use their energy, the energy they have, into contributing to the energy sustainability agenda. The next point is youth are often considered to be bursting with raw creativity. Now, this creative energy can be channeled into developing innovative solutions, especially in this era of digitization where youth are considered to be tech savvy or technologically adept. Having grown up with technology, they're probably more familiar with technology and can come up with innovative solutions that can actually contribute into the energy sustainability agenda. And lastly, development of custom tailored solutions. Since sustainability is basically about the future and youth are considered to be the leaders of tomorrow, I believe that the youth can actually propose solutions to the currently existing problems, while they also envision the kind of future that they would like to live in. So that's basically, they have the ability of developing these custom tailored solutions for the future that they would like to live in. Now, the next point I'd like us to go to is barriers and solutions pertaining to youth's contribution in energy sustainability. When we speak about sustainability, there are certain pillars or rather aspects that we have to consider. They can basically be described as planet, people, or prosperity, the 3 Ps, or could also think of them as environmental, social, and economic. It's important to note that all these factors are intertwined, but for the purpose of this conversation, we'll be focusing mostly on the people aspect, which is the social aspect, which is where the youth fall into. So moving on, some of the solutions, some of the barriers and solutions which I think exist are aside to the barriers, awareness about sustainability, and the inadequate involvement of youth in energy sustainability activities. The second point is quite related to the first one, whereby if perhaps someone isn't aware of about sustainability on its own, they might not be able to involve themselves in these activities that are geared towards sustainability. For example, while on the field, I found myself often having to explain what energy is and explaining why it's important, because you might find in a production a facility, they are more keen about production, which makes sense, which is actually the economic aspect of sustainability. And this production, we'd like it to keep on going because we rely on some of these activities that they do. But now we'd have to know that they need people to actually perhaps run the machines that are running the production facilities. And these machines require energy. And this energy, we get it just from the natural resources. So perhaps even just explaining to someone how the resources are actually linked to the production, they start becoming a bit more aware about sustainability, and they're already included in the sustainability agenda. So basically just increasing awareness about sustainability and its relationship with other aspects of life, I believe can go a long way, and also actively involving the youth in existing and also personalized energy sustainability activities. And I'd like us to discuss a bit more further on how to include them. So I think youth can be included in the energy sustainability agenda through trainings. Trainings go a long way in building and fortifying skills and knowledge relating to energy sustainability, especially since youth are highly teachable and can greatly benefit from and share these benefits with the community. When I was beginning this Youth in Energy Empowerment Program, we were taken through a training for energy audit technician, and there was so much to learn. And I actually wanted to put this into practice. I found myself going back to the house and looking at ratings of some of the equipment we have, like the fridge, and trying to figure out, okay, how can we save on bills? The bills was the first point, but as I mentioned, by saving on the bills, you actually now conserve energy and find more efficient ways of using the energy. So the next point would be exposure and inclusion, which is tied to the trainings. Once you get the training, I believe youth would want to use these skills, and the only way they can use it is if they've been exposed into an environment that supports, and also if they've been included in activities that actually foster being able to use these newly learned skills. So exposure and inclusion in the energy space in whatever capacity would give youth a learning experience, opportunity for growth, as well as practice the skills and knowledge they already possess. And the third way I believe in which youth can contribute to the energy sustainability agenda is through mentorship. In every stage of life, we often find people who are perhaps more skilled, more experienced than us. And that's the same in the energy field. There are people who have a vast of experience in which youth can benefit from. So I believe the energy professionals in the field can provide guidance, knowledge, and advice gained from years of experience to the youth, which they can greatly benefit from. And lastly, the last point is just my personal advice to decision makers and my fellow youth in how we can contribute to the energy sustainability agenda. And my focus will be mostly on capacity building. And I'd like to start with the youth. So youth are generally considered to be quite impatient, and especially in this era, it would make sense due to the fast pace of life. So things need to get done. But I believe just by taking your time to go through a process and understanding it, can patiently learn and grow while still staying ambitious and energetic. In this way, you actually learn and you can still achieve your goal of whatever goal you had set forth. But it's important to go through the process just patiently. A little patience can go a long way. Then the next point is to do the best in whatever capacity. Since we are quite young and we're still developing, the skill set we might have might be quite limited, but we shouldn't let that hold us back, because whatever you can do, even if it's switching off a light, it contributes greatly to the larger picture. And there's a small saying there which says, little by little, the bird makes its nest. If you might have ever seen a bird building a nest, or probably not building it, but just flying with perhaps some pieces of some resources in its mouth, it's probably going one trip, then another trip, and a third one while picking the resources and taking it back to the tree. And eventually that becomes the nest in which the bird can actually live in and can actually have its family there. So the next, I'd also like to address the decision makers. And my first point would be to include youth at the forefront of some of the decision making. So since the youth are actually the leaders of tomorrow, I believe it would make sense to include them in some of the decision making. I have an analogy of, let's say, a smartphone. Developers are making an app, an application, and it has certain features. So they've gone ahead and done the documentation, the development, and they're even doing the maintenance. But if there's a condition such that after 2 years, you're the one who's supposed to take over all of this, the development of the application and the maintenance, I think it would make sense for you to be involved from the beginning, so that after 2 years, your process becomes, the process of taking over becomes slightly easier, which I think is what can happen to youth and in the energy space, where, yes, there are all this decision making that's happening, but the youth can also be in the forefront so that when they're taking over, even in the implementation phase, a few years to come, it becomes a smoother process for them. Then the last point is to establish or adopt well-structured programs and opportunities favorable to the youth and ensure that they're actively involved in the energy sustainability agenda. So I'd say this involves just opportunities and programs that would make youth the center, so to speak, of these activities where they can take initiative on their own and actually drive the sustainability agenda in a way that they can, of course, with the guidance, and also just being included in ongoing activities that already exist in which they can plug into and help in whatever the capacity that they can. To finalize, I'd just like to say that energy affects all of us, despite our varying differences, because at the end of the day, we get all this energy from the planet, and we all live on the same planet. And so that's why I believe that inclusivity would be important for us, especially in the energy space. And lastly, I just like to say, in whatever capacity you have, youth, whether you're a woman, whether you're a person living with disability, or whatever capacity that you may have, you can make a difference in this energy space. So thank you, and I'd love to give it back to David.
Thank you so much, Richard, for sharing your experiences and then learnings, and just highlighting the issue that the young people are facing and how they can be supported. I agree with you. Issues of capacity building, whether it's through training, mentorship, exposure, providing internship opportunities, really go a long way, and then people need to mainstream these, and then whether it's through policy to see how these can be entrenched in our society. We need to involve youth in the decision making, consulting them when developing policies, involving them in our projects and programs. I think these are a very interesting way of looking at it, and I think that project has really supported in that, and we need to involve stakeholders. So good that you're presenting to the stakeholders here. I believe there will be synergies that come out of it. Asante sana. I would like to thank all the speakers for taking the opportunity to share with us the different aspects that we'll be looking at. In terms of energy inclusion, energy and inclusion and sustainability, I think it has been a learning point for us. And at this juncture, I will allow questions for the speakers. So if you have a question, you can either put it on the chat or raise your hand, and then I'll be able to guide. And maybe to start us off, I would like to ask Brian. I think there are questions that I had asked earlier on. Maybe you could address those as we kick off this Q&A session. And everybody feel free to ask questions and interact with the speakers. Brian? Do you want me to repeat the questions, or you have them?
Yeah. So if you can repeat them, please.
So I was asking in terms of challenges. What are the challenges that you faced while you are developing this technology, whether it's regulatory, issues of patenting, cost of development, And I think I was asking, how do you see renewable energy, things like solar supporting your innovation?
Yeah, so I think the main challenge that we faced, especially for our company, is that we are doing a hardware product. So I'd say developing a product like an app or this digital solution is quite easy. I think there's a lot of investment early on, but once you go to develop, especially something that hasn't been done before, so raising investment to go into this kind of venture was quite difficult for us. And even beyond that, most of the electronic parts are not available here locally. And especially, I'd say, I think we should, if we can look at improving like our local manufacturing, especially in the energy space, we can manufacture our own batteries. There's a lot of cost that is involved in shipping batteries into the country. I think there's usually an extra charge if you're shipping batteries. If you're shipping out a product that has batteries, it's another cost. So if we can look at a way where we can do local manufacturing for certain electronics and even for our own batteries, then I think that would really help to bring future costs down and make the products more accessible. I think in terms of regulations, definitely there's a lot of regulations for our products. There's a bit of confusion whether it's a medical device, whether it's not. So we usually face some problems when dealing with KEBS and other regulatory authorities. But so far we've been able to navigate that, but after very long delays and periods of time. I think there are policies. We have very good policies in Kenya around items for persons with disabilities do not get taxed. But then to qualify for that, they make the process so long and so painful that eventually just decide to pay the taxes and pass this cost on to the final consumer. So I think we have, as we're making very good policies, let's also make it very easy for someone who genuinely qualifies under these schemes or subsidies to actually benefit from that. Otherwise, it doesn't really make sense to have them. In terms of renewable energy, I think definitely in the rural areas, if we can, I think some places that we are working in, I think the users just rely on solar charging stations that are there in the market. So once someone uses their product, right now we have up to 30 days on a single charge. So we believe in 30 days, someone will find a place to charge it. And most of these rural areas are served by solar stations where most people come to charge their electronic devices. So I do think that that will be the future. We can have accessible like solar solutions where people have them in their homes or a neighbor has it somewhere very close and accessible, then I think that will be really useful as we even innovate more products in this space. Thanks, David.
Thank you so much, Brian, for sharing that. We have a few comments. And if you go to the reaction side, there's a down there, if you check your Zoom, you'll see a section written reactions. That is where you can raise your hand if you want to ask a question, but you can also put them on the chat. Just reading some comments from the participants. From Eileen, great innovations here for people living with disabilities. Indeed, access to reliable source of energy is a requirement across the sector. Well done, Brian and team. A question for Richard. What is the biggest takeaway from the YWEP program? Richard, what's your main takeaway from the program?
Yes, thank you, David and Ruth, for that question. So I'd say my biggest takeaway personally is just the learning opportunity that it has provided. You see, while we are going through the training, there are things that you learn in class, and while you actually reach on the ground, you figure out that there's some certain tweaks that you might have to make, while you still just try to navigate and learn more. So I'd say it's basically a continuous learning process. And that's why I'd encourage just in any capacity that you have to learn. But as the way the program is structured, it's structured in such a way that it just provides a great overall learning experience, which as I had mentioned earlier, is great for capacity building.
Okay, thank you for that. Maybe a question for Claire. I read from your profile that you've engaged in the entrepreneurship program with Tony Elumelu, if I got it right. What is your impression in terms of the youth, women taking up opportunities, and what is a major challenge that you see while mentoring these people? What are the sectors? I would like to want to know what are the sectors that you see, women, youth trying to get into from your experience?
Thank you very much, David. The Tony Elumelu program takes on any good business idea. They are not sector specific, but the ones that I've been mentoring are majorly in energy and agriculture. And actually, you will find that given that Africa is an agricultural continent, majority of the innovations and the businesses are in agriculture. And in terms of getting women and youth involvement, most of the participants are actually young people, because they're the ones who have that excitement in getting ideas developed and seeing them turned into actual businesses. The opportunities it has is that there's some funding at the end of the program after intense training. So young people are interested in learning, and then once they get the opportunity also to combine it with the financing to actually get their ideas off the ground, then the participation is really, really on a higher side. And this is an annual program where they send out a call, so youth always look out for it to get the applications in.
Sorry, I missed it.
Women actually, myself, I've been working, mentoring majorly women. And you talked about challenges. Yes, they have the good ideas, they get onto the program, they are selected, but normally there is a challenge on the commitment. It's an intense training program. You have activities on a weekly basis. So finding the ground to meet my roles and also the program roles is where the challenge normally comes in. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Claire, for addressing those questions. I think there's someone who is asking for Brian's contacts. I think he shared on the chat there. So you can get it from there. I think there's someone who thinks they can support you in the in what you're doing. Maybe let me just check if there's any more questions. I can't see any. I think it has been quite an engaging session. Energy, I usually say, is an enabler and cuts across various sectors, it impacts us in various ways and really opens up a lot of opportunities. Okay, I see a hand, Millie Kadu. You have a question before we close this session?
Yes, please. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you so much, the presenters, and thank you for all that you have enabled to share with us. My name is Millie Kadu from Uganda. So I'm quite interested in the presentation from Kaga, especially about the extent to which women have been involved in the energy sector. So what is very true is that women are key in energy utilization, especially when it comes to cooking and heating. However, I'm still a little puzzled whether engaging women in management positions is just enough to see women on board. Because what I'm quite sure of is that it is basically the peasant woman in the village or in the home as a wife who is using energy for cooking, for heating, and to some extent for lighting. So I'm just wondering, to what extent is that peasant woman or that rural woman being brought on board in terms of using especially renewable energy? Because among the problems you identified in your introduction is the fact that we are highly relying on solid biomass, which is affecting the environment. So how have we brought this woman on board to use the improved renewable energy resources such that they continue with their day's work, and at the same time we maintain the environment? And on the second note, or my second question is, when I've identified that Kaga says that she's giving out scholarships, and incidentally, it is boy children still who are coming in to access the scholarships. So I'm just wondering, how best do you attract girls to come in for these scholarships? Do you move out to schools to inform them? What is the awareness program? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Neil. Question on the involvement of women in the managerial roles. The issue is getting more women at policy decision level, because much as the women will get into management, if they are not able to influence the policies for them, because of the rural woman that Amila is talking about, is going to benefit from active policy implementation. So when we have the women in the high level discussions, these discussions will involve how do we get that rural woman to actually get to know about the improved cooking solutions that are available on the market, and how is she actually going to be able to take up, because much as she may get the knowledge about the improved cooking solutions, does she have the capacity to actually afford? So the policies that have to be looked at the higher level discussions is getting information out there, and also getting these women the enabling solution position for them to be able to afford the clean energy solutions that we are able to provide. Then this rural woman can actually also get into the entrepreneurship value chain, either as a provider of raw materials at sourcing stage, or being a consumer, or even being involved in the employment in these energy enterprises that are being set up. Because remember, these enterprises are both are actually at all levels. Then also they are both in the rural and the urban settings. And you also asked about our scholarship program. Yes, we highly encourage women, really young girls, to join the program. But okay, we get to reach out through radio in especially the community, people who are outside Kampala. Then we use social media, and then we get through our networks. We even use the newspapers, and strongly encourage girls to apply. But at the end of it all, you find that by the time we finish to select, still the boys come out more than the girls. Yeah, because we've tried to engage even the women associations to ensure that the message goes out there. But you know, there is a fear of many of the girls to get into the technical courses. So you'll find that people call you, Claire, yes, we saw your opportunity in the newspapers, or we had the opportunity over the radio, but my girl is doing tailoring. How can she be able to access the scholarship? And we are saying these scholarships are empowering girls in the STEM courses. Okay, so the needs are there, but some of the needs are not actually in the STEM courses where we want more women and girls to get on board. That's where we normally get the gap of getting in more boys than the girls that we yearn for. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire, for answering the questions. I'm seeing a lot of comments coming in. People are appreciating what has been presented today. And I think the speakers have been great, and we've learned quite a bit from you. The issue of gender coming out very clearly, and gender is not only about women, it's about women, men, girls and boys getting an equal opportunity irrespective of their status in society, whether they are living with disabilities or not, giving opportunities to those who out to the poor, to those who do not have the opportunity, and giving that opportunity to them. And it's very interesting to see the opportunities that lie. And in energy, there are so many that are there, that the youth, women, people living with disabilities, and others can actually plug in. So it's very interesting to see the interlinkages. There's a link that has been shared where you can get the presentations from the speakers and the recording of these webinars. So you can click on that, and you'll be guided on how to get that the recording and the presentations from here. Seeing that there are no further questions, and because of time, I would want us to go to the next item of the agenda, and that is to give the speakers an opportunity, a minute or two, to give your final comments, give us your thoughts about the webinar, maybe ideas on how to improve on these, and maybe other topics that we can look at. So your final comments, and we'll start the same way we began with Claire. Claire, you can begin.
Thank you very much, David. I'm very glad to be part of this, and also to be able to share with the participants. My closing is on when we normally say gender, people understand women. But for today, we are specific on women, because gender inequality, you will find that when we mention that the two words gender inequality, what normally comes is the men are at a different level and the women are on a totally normally lower level. So how do we get the two on board, empower the women, but also ensure that the men also play their roles? Then we shall have the women inclusion and also gender equality achieved. Thank you very much.
Claire, maybe before we leave you, and then thanks for bringing that up, the issue of gender. It's not all about women, but we know women historically have been disadvantaged, and that is why they are focused when we talk about inclusion. There's a question that someone has asked about what is the age group for scholarships. I am 33 with a degree in electrical engineering and looking for a scholarship in renewable energy or something close. Do you have, I think it was directed to you. Do you have any response?
Scholarships. Our scholarships are specifically for students taking on technical courses in technical institutions, and these normally stop at national diplomas. So for who are doing degrees, we do not take you on. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Claire, for clarifying that. Brian, your final comments?
Yeah, thanks, David. So I think for me, I'll just leave everyone with always think about persons with disabilities in all the work that you do. I think I'm really happy to see a sign language interpreter in this forum. I don't know if it's because it's for inclusivity, but I'm hoping it's all of them. And I think most of the people here are decision makers in this energy space. So we can just have these conversations about persons with disabilities, and I think that will really increase their participation in the society, so that everyone is aware about people with disabilities, and there's nothing wrong with that. Few assistive devices and a bit of inclusion measures, and I think they can fit right in. So I just encourage anyone to, in whatever line of work they're in, always consider persons with disabilities at the beginning, at the planning stage, and not as an afterthought.
Thank you, Richard. Sorry, Brian, for your comments. We are really encouraged and motivated by what we've been able to achieve, and we wish you all the best in your innovation. And I know there are more to come from you. So we really appreciate you and thank you for being here today. Richard, your final comments?
Thank you, David. I think I agree with the sentiments from the other speakers. And I don't think anyone likes feeling left behind or not included. So I think it's just nice if in whatever capacity or position people are, they should just be included, whether women, youth, or even people living with disabilities. It would be nice for them to be included. And I'd probably just want to mention that if you are to plant a tree, if you plant the seed or seedling today, you won't expect it to grow immediately by tomorrow. You also have to nurture it, take care of it, and eventually one day you might see it become a tree, or maybe the future generations. And that's why I think investing in sustainability, and particularly the youth, follows the same direction as planting a tree. So yeah, thank you. Back to you, David.
Yeah. Sorry. Thank you, Richard, for your comments. I think the youth have been challenged to take up opportunities, and also everybody in the space, to give opportunities to the youth, to the disabled, to people living with disabilities, to women, because we know the challenges that the particular challenges that they face towards achieving, or achieving anything in life. It's not always easy for them. There's always an obstacle facing them. So thank you all, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank all the speakers for taking time, for sharing their thoughts, for sharing their experiences, for teaching us. And I think we've all learned from you, and we really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. And we wish you all the best, and look forward to interacting and even engaging during the World Energy Day in October. At this juncture, I would like us to move to the next level, where we will have some closing remarks from Ms. Julie Kusimba, who is an advocate of the High Court, from Area Finergy, a lead in supply and financial of clean energy, storage and power quality systems. And Area Finergy are partnering with the World Energy Day to deliver a successful conference this year, and we really appreciate them. So if we could have Julie Kusimba give us the closing remarks. Karibu sana, Julie.
Thank you, Sana. David, I'd like to thank Claire, Richard, and Brian for your great presentations. We've all learned a lot today, and we've been told to ensure that we include the youth and the women at the forefront of decision-making to ensure inclusion in energy activities. We have also learned that we are pillars of sustainability, and with that, we should all get actively involved in energy matters. And with that, I'd like to invite all of you to the World Energy Day conference from the 20th. Let us get actively involved. Let us be included and take action. Let us walk the talk from this webinar. Hope to see you from the 20th to the 22nd in Uganda. Come one, come all, come with your friends, fellow women, fellow youth, and let us continue engaging in energy matters and improving the world and the sustainability. Thank you very much, World Energy Day, and that is all from me.
Thank you, Julie, for partnering with the World Energy Day, for your support and for your comments. I almost forgot to thank Winnie Adoyo for doing a wonderful job as our sign interpreter. We really appreciate. I think this gives the opportunity for those who are not able to interact with us in the normal way to also be part of this discussion, and we really appreciate that. As I conclude, before I hand it over to Karen, I also like to challenge all of us to, as part of this inclusivity agenda and issues of gender, to really try and focus on matters of clean cooking, as you heard of the CEO of the Clean Cooking Association of Kenya. So it would be immoral for me not to mention issues of clean cooking. We know there are people who lose their lives because of this. There are people who, because of issues of household air pollution, it's the degradation of our environment, issues to do with even livelihoods, the quality of life. Our mothers, our sisters should not be cooking with, polluting fuels and harmful fuels in the 21st century. So in this decade of action, let us, in our own capacities, promote clean cooking, integrate and mainstream issues of clean cooking in our policies, in our actions. Let's create that awareness and partnerships to make sure that this is achieved. The most disadvantaged or those most impacted by these are mainly women and children. And if you look at the numbers of people who die every year in Kenya, it's mind-boggling. It's crazy. More than 21,000 people die each year because of complications related to household air pollution. That's a huge number. Even COVID, we are not yet there. More than road accidents and HIV. So it's a serious issue that needs to be addressed. And unfortunately, it affects the poor. It affects the women. It affects children who are already disadvantaged in society. So it's a clarion call to actually take up that mantra and drive it and partner. And the CCAK always feel free to engage, and we can partner and see how we can drive this agenda forward. Allow me to now invite Karen to give us the final remarks and then close the forum. As your moderator, asanteni sana for the opportunity, and I really enjoyed interacting with all of you. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. We've had a wonderful conversation, great insights. I think we'd like to have more and more of these. Yeah, so it's my pleasure to also thank you, David. You thanked everyone else apart from yourself. So thank you so very much for moderating this really, really well. We've really enjoyed the session. We've taken away so much, and we've seen the critical role that everyone has to play in this energy space as we try and transition to the next level. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much to you also, David, as well. And before we close, I'd like to mention a partner that we had forgotten, Innovators Limited. So Innovators Limited is an energy service company. We do so much from energy projects, energy efficiency matters, energy training, youth empowerment. I think Ruth can drop a link to the website on the chat section so that you can go get more. And echoing what Richard said, the Youth in Energy Empowerment Program was launched in November last year. That's when we began with the first cohort. And this amazing group of youth are graduating this October at the World Energy Day Conference, where Julie has warmly welcomed us all. Come one, come all, bring your friends. Yeah, we'd really love to see you at the conference in Kampala. Yeah, they'll be graduating there and then paving way for the next cohort. But before that, we have our last webinar, the 7th Energy Professionals online roundtable webinar coming up in October 15th, just a week before all roads lead to Kampala, for us to eat matoke and discuss energy matters that are affecting the continent. Yes, so look out for that. We'll share the details on the WhatsApp broadcast page, as well as our social media pages. The Secretariat will also put links to all those platforms on the chat section. Yes, and also to point it out, I know most of the people also, the professionals here, are looking out for what is coming up in terms of training. We have 3 remaining professional trainings to close the year. We have the Renewable Energy Professional, we have the Certified Energy Manager, and we have the Certified Measurement and Verification Profession that are coming up later in October and in November. We'll also put the details on the chat section. And with that, I would really wish to thank each and every one of you for just being here, for sharing with us, for joining us in this amazing discussion on inclusivity. We've discussed a lot, we've deliberated on a lot, and let us go home or go finish whatever we are doing the rest of our day, thinking about what we need to do to promote inclusivity in the energy space. So thank you so much, all of you, and see you on 15th for the 7th Energy Professionals Online Roundtable.